So where we put pillows, usually across the chest, abdomen, and then down here at the shin. But I'm thinking that we also need to put pillows right here across the thighs. And it might be even for the ears, and for the boys that we need to get the donuts so that there's like no pressure on that. Elizabeth said the patient that we have that has breakdown on their ears, it was around the edge, but it was also behind it as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. I don't know how easily accessible donuts are going to be. There was a time we used them all the time, and then they said it kind of makes things worse, and so they kind of fell out of favor, and now it looks like they're coming back again. So just think about your shoulders, your ears, maybe thighs and shins. Now, these pillows are not optimal, but they're better than nothing. So every single one of these are the disposable pillows that y'all have down here, and there's 2 pillows in every single pillowcase. It might, I don't know, it's kind of a slippery slope. You could probably put 3 in there, but 3 would, I mean, potentially compress it even more, if that makes sense, right? So you might just kind of have to see how it goes. Put your arms down the side. And so you're gonna have, make sure that you're doing this on a patient bed, not the stretcher, because there's really not enough room to do it. So you're gonna have the fitted sheet on there, then you're gonna have a flat sheet under the patient. Sheet.
And I'm gonna tell you, see it's closed at, that's right. Go away.
And then you're gonna put another sheet. You're gonna take their arms, tuck their arms on both sides. You're gonna put a sheet over them. Take the gown off. Did you want me to demonstrate that too? And you want to kind of make sure that your sheet is about the same on both sides, so you have enough to roll. You want to make sure the gown is off. Also, you're going to take their EKG leads off because you don't want them laying on those.
Is it the same reason for the gown too, because you don't want the creases from the gown? Okay.
Yeah. And then you're going to put pillows, pillows.
Just put it on your face.
It might work better like that. It depends on how long your patient is, right? So she's kind of short. So if I put one on her chest and then on the lower abdomen, that pretty much takes up that whole area, which if it's a guy, you're gonna have their junk right there. So you might just kind of have to look and see how your patient's body looks and see where they need padding the most. Next sheet. And really, depending upon the size of your patient, it can be done 2 people on each side, but really it should be 3 people on each side. Like this is an overhead page, we're proning in room whatever, and everybody that can come needs to come.
When do you start this?
So Rob can talk about that. Usually it's a,
Generally
are we
good
looking
thing.
at PF
It's their
ratio?
oxygenation status. Now, if their stomach is protruding out, like what's the best place to, you know, if they got a nice little stomach on them?
So I would definitely do padding above the stomach and then down below the stomach. And it might be, you know, you might even have to get more pillows because obviously you don't want to put a lot of pressure there because then it's going to be harder to ventilate them, right? But y'all understand the physiology behind proning, right? It's actually quite remarkable. I think I find it a little bit odd that I think they used to do it in the old days because we used to have a striker frame and I remember doing it and then it kind of fell out of favor and then the rotoprone beds came around and they worked really well, but they had their own set of complications. And so now it's kind of like, you know, what was old is new again. So here we are. Okay, so 3 people over here. This is the ventilator. 3 people over here. And then there's gonna be a respiratory therapist at the head of the bed. So, like in the video, you're gonna do like a human burrito, okay? So you're gonna move away from the vent and then you're gonna turn to the vent. So on the vent side, and this is how I remember it, when you're proning is UV, okay? So ventilator, you're gonna roll these sheets under, you're gonna roll them up, over there. Yep, all three. And you wanna get as tight as you can, because you don't want these pillows moving when you go to turn them. Okay, so respiratory is gonna be at the head of the bed, they're gonna be hanging on the tube. The easiest way to do this, like they did in the video, is move the patient up so that the head is off the bed.
How far if you want to go for off the bed?
Huh?
How far you want to go for off the bed?
You're the respiratory therapist.
Well, we'll just come to the very end so her head's not actually
Are you
hanging
gonna
off.
move the pillow underneath her head, or do we keep it?
Well, since her head would be off the end of the bed, it's gonna be gone eventually.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it
but
will
for her
be.
comfort, we can leave her right
Yeah.
here.
Because she's awake and not sedated.
I'm trying, but we can fix it.
Okay, so usually, respiratory, we do it on their count because they're the ones stabilizing the ET
Put
tube.
that hand down.
So on your count, on 3, we're going up.
So we're gonna go to the head of the bed.
Mhm.
Okay, on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, and then on respiratory's count, we're gonna go that way. So you're gonna slide all the way to that edge of the bed.
Okay, you ready? Let's see which way are we sliding for you guys. To the
To your left.
Just
Okay.
come this side.
Okay, ready? On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, and then on 3 again, I'm gonna move back.
Jump.
You're gonna just go up 90 degrees, so she's gonna be lying on her side, and then you're gonna switch positions on the rolls. So y'all are gonna be reaching under, y'all are gonna be reaching over.
Okay.
On your count.
Ready? Turn on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so and then one hand until everybody's
You got it?
switched.
For myself, okay.
Where's the screw?
Okay, I got
All right, and then
It's hard
3
to
on your
figure out
count.
what
always.
was, but yeah.
You ready? Okay, on 3, 1, 2, 3. Stay comfortable. Stay comfortable.
Okay.
I don't want to switch your head around.
Stay down, and then you can unroll everything. Now, when you before you get too far into it, you want to make sure that you're looking at everything. So you might just pull that sheet back and then just make sure that your pillows are where they need to be. So this one looks like her pillows need to go that way a little bit more. Now, for somebody that's small like her, you can probably just reach under there and just tug on them and get them in better alignment. For somebody who's a lot heavier, just like they did in the video, everybody just lift up the patient and then you can move stuff around as you need to. And always, anytime anybody's moving, always do it on a count.
Got it?
Okay, and then they talked about swimmer's view, swimmer's position. So whatever direction her face is, that arm
Goes up.
goes up. Okay,
Can't you put a leg up too sometimes?
Like
Like a,
you can. You can. It just kind of depends on the size of the patient. And the other thing is, does it look comfortable? I sleep on my stomach, so I am very familiar with arm placement and head placement and all of that, because that's how I sleep. I can't sleep pretty much any other way. Then you want to put your leads back on. Usually when a patient is very first intubated, we put a gastric tube down, right? An oral OGT. And in the video, they really want something a little bit more definitive as a Dobhoff. And I'm not sure that y'all will be doing that down here. But hopefully there's gonna be dialogue and feedback back and forth. Hopefully this is not something y'all are gonna have to do all the time. Like, we don't wanna hold ICU patients in the ER for prolonged periods of time. But by the same token, for those opportunities that do arise, you need to be able to do it. It's not difficult to do. It's just, you have to be kind of methodical about it, and you always have to do all of your moving on a count, right? In the video, they talked about disconnecting as many IVs as you could, just so you're not getting stuff all tangled up. The other thing is, are y'all allowing like visitors, family visitors?
Some.
One.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to do a lot of education with the family when you start talking about proning the patient. Because, you know, we put people in bed on their back and they get that dependent edema, right? And you don't really pay any attention to it because it's not their face. Then when you put them face down, like they're sometimes, depending upon how much edema they have, it can really distort their face. And families need to be aware of that. When we were putting them on rubber-foam beds, oh my God, it was horrible. Like it was horrible. They couldn't even recognize their loved one. So make sure that you get the leads on the back, make sure that you, no worries. Make sure that your IVs are kind of going out, they're not really laying on anything. And then if you want to, once you get the leads on the back, you can put a gown, over the back of them.
So like for her, we could put Mepilex on the ear that's down.
Well, I'll tell you what, oh, I'm sorry, how's a patch on that, I'm sorry. So if they're gonna be prone down here, we should probably still go ahead and get the Dell ET tube holder and put it on. We'll bring one of the positioning pillows down. I don't know if you've seen them. They're that big, you know, you can squish it and it stays, just like that kinetic sand the kids play with. During, you know, you can smash it however. And we position it around, we make a big, kind of a cap on it for their ear, so it doesn't put pressure on their ear.
Okay.
And they've got a pretty good system they're using in the ICU. So if we needed to, like if the RT's down here,
Right.
don't generally work in the COVID unit of the ICU as much. I get one of those people down, or you know, our critical care person, Vicky, or Julie on our educator, somebody like that. They can come down and make sure that it's all positioned appropriately, and make sure that the person's good to go until time they get moved up to the ICU.
So when they make the decision to prone a patient in the ER, as far as respiratory is concerned, should they just be calling the RT team leader and they will coordinate this, or do they talk to specifically to the respiratory
Yeah, they
therapist
can
in
just talk
charge
to
of that patient?
who's ever down here,
Okay.
right, and they'll get whatever help down
Okay.
here they need, and,
Okay.
and whatever supplies that we wanna set
Okay.
them up on. Probably wanna put them on the Dell tube holder before we prone them.
When the decision's made to prone, how quickly are we needing it prone?
Pretty quick.
So hospital beds aren't that available, like it's a thing of.
If it